All right, welcome to Social Psychology Online. I am Dr. Davis, and this is the syllabus introduction video. Everything that you need to know about the course and what we will accomplish over the next 6 or so weeks. Um, my office information is there, my email is there, and my phone number is there. Harold Washington Hall is going to be closed this summer, so I will not be in the office. However, I can come in to meet with students by appointment. What this means is that the absolute best way to reach me is via email. I typically check my email multiple times a day. And if you ask me an easy question, often, something I don't have to spend a lot of time or energy looking up the answers to, I can usually get back to you within about 24 or so hours. More difficult questions, things that I've got to sort of look up, and I need to actually be physically sitting in a computer to do that. That might take a little bit longer. You may call me, but if I'm not in the office, which I won't be because the building's closed, then I won't get that voicemail. So in the summer especially, email is absolutely the best way to reach me. If you have an emergency, you can call the psych office, and the psych office will call my personal cell phone in case of an emergency. The text here is the Myers text, 11th edition. You will need the text for the course. The purpose of the class is to give you an introduction into the exciting and growing field of social psychology, and to give you some insight into what we know about how individuals think, feel, and behave in the presence of others. This course is one of our foundational courses to prepare psychology majors for the senior thesis course. So in the focus of this course will be on basic concepts and processes in social psychology, but I will lean heavily on the research methods behind these studies. So we won't just talk about the results of the studies, what happened, or the facts that we know, but we'll talk about the research studies themselves. How did they conduct the study to come up with the conclusions that we have in our social psychology textbooks? And so we'll be doing a lot of sort of critical evaluation of scientific evidence, and we'll talk about these procedures in social psychological research. This is an online course, so each week's course materials will be made available on Mondays and Wednesdays. And the due dates for all of these things will be midnight on the dates indicated on the calendar on the last page of the syllabus. For the discussion board assignments, your final entries must be posted by the time listed in the course calendar. But be aware when we talk about discussion posts, many of these are not just simply, one or two posts. It's sort of an ongoing discussion. So you're going to need to be posting multiple times before the deadline. As with voting in Chicago with discussions, you want to post discussions early and often. Chicago State University attempts to make educational opportunities available to qualified students regardless of disability. This course follows that policy. If you need an accommodation based on a disability, come and see me as soon as humanly possible. There's paperwork that needs to be filled out with the Abilities Office, and as with all things Chicago State, that paperwork is going to take some time to process. So just come and email me as soon as possible. That way I can get that accommodation taken care of for you. The course requirements and grading. The grade that you earn in the course will be determined by the following components: 12 online quizzes, 12 discussion board posts, and 3 written assignments. The due dates for all of these have been listed out on the course calendar on the last page of the syllabus. The final grade, the final letter grade that you get is just the accumulated number of points matched to the grade breakdown on the syllabus. So theoretically, everyone in the class could get an A. I encourage you guys to work together, but papers must be written individually. I do send all of the papers through turnitin.com, so if you find another student from a previous semester and you use their paper, it will be very obvious that you use their paper. We'll talk about plagiarism in a minute, so avoid doing that. There is generally no extra credit in this class. It's relatively straightforward, but it's important for you to put forth the effort to get things right the first time, especially in a summer class where we have such a condensed schedule. Sometimes I have research participation extra credit available. I do not currently, but if that does come up during the summer semester, summer quarter, summer term, I will make that available to you. I apologize for my dogs barking. Um, Keeping track of your grade, the absolute best way to keep track of your grade throughout the quarter is to follow your performance on Moodle. Your grade is your responsibility, so if you disappear from this class, if you stop posting, if you stop taking quizzes, I will not notice and I will not track you down. But if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time with the quizzes especially, contact me and I will do everything that I can to help you get through the class. The easiest way to keep track of your grades is to keep a running tally of the points that you have lost. So, for example, the highest possible amount of points in the class is 250 points. If you get a 7 out of 10 on the first quiz and a 5 out of 5 on the first discussion, then you will have lost 3 points. And so that means the highest point total you can achieve now in the class is 247. If you keep a running tally of those points, subtract it from the total points possible in the class, that will be the best way to keep track of your grade. Note about how Moodle calculates grades. Moodle is set up currently to not include any uncompleted work in the final point total. So if, for example, you didn't do one of the quizzes, your final point total would be out of 240, not 250, and so that's going to skew the calculation of the final grade. So do not rely on the percentage that's posted on Moodle to understand where your grade stands. The only way to keep track of this grade is to keep a running tally of the points that you've lost. So each week I will post a web lecture. It'll be a YouTube video. It'll be embedded into Moodle. It'll be about 20 to 30 minutes. These are not graded, but they are a real easy way to sort of get your feet wet with the material. And I will explain maybe some more difficult concepts from the text. And they will definitely help you out when it comes for the weekly quizzes and the discussions. In fact, often some of the discussions are based on what I talked about and discussed in a lecture. These you can watch. You don't necessarily have to watch the entire thing, but you should listen to the entire lecture. So I encourage you, as you are going about your day, if you have to do the dishes, you might as well pull up the web lecture on your phone, put in your headphones, and listen to it while you're doing the dishes, or while you're folding laundry, or sort of build it into your day-to-day routines. Throughout the semester, the summer term, there'll be 10 quizzes worth 10 points each. I know it says 12 up on the last one. So there will be however many quizzes. Let's see. 10 quizzes, because it's the summer. There'll be 10 quizzes worth 10 points each. They're going to be multiple choice. They'll cover material for that week. They come directly from the book manufacturer, but they will overlap with the web lectures. The best way to take the weekly quiz. Let me say. The quizzes are due on the dates indicated on the syllabus. However, they are open and available for the duration of that week's unit. So typically a Monday unit will open on a Monday and it'll close on a Friday. The next unit will open on a Wednesday and close on a Sunday. And so during the time that that unit is open, you may take that quiz as many times as you like. You could literally take it 100 times, and it would only keep the highest score. Even if you get a 10 or a 9 out of 10 on the first time, and you're trying for that 10, it's still going to keep the highest score you get. However, every time you take the quiz, you're going to get a different set of randomly chosen questions. So the best strategy for taking the quiz is to first listen to the web lecture, read through the textbook chapters, and then with your book open, take the quiz. Right? If you get a perfect score the first time around, great, that's awesome. If not, when the quiz is over, it will tell you which questions you got wrong, but it won't tell you what the correct answers are. And so this is your opportunity then to go back to the book and look up the answers to the questions that you got wrong. Write those down in your notes. You could take a screenshot if you like of the screen, whatever works best for you. That way, if you get those quiz questions again, you already know what those answers are. Now, granted, when you take the quiz again, you'll get a different set of random questions, but they'll all be based on the same topics from the chapter. So if you follow this procedure of take the quiz, look up the things you got wrong, take it again, look up the things you got wrong, it is quite possible for you to get all 100 of those points for the course. If you are trying to get an A in this class, if you are trying to get an A in this class, then you are going to want to shoot to get 8s and 9s and 10s on all of the quizzes. If you are just trying to pass this class, you're just trying to get a C, then 6s, 5, 6s, and 7s will be adequate, as long as you are also completing the other work in the course. The weekly discussions, there'll be 10 of them. They're worth 5 points each. They take place via Moodle. There'll be specific instructions for each of these. They'll typically relate to something that I talked about in the web lecture. I will only grade substantive posts for credit, and a substantive post is one that's relevant to the topic and provides reasons, evidence to support something, advances a conversation in meaningful ways. I agree, or good idea, or what will often happen is someone will post a personal story, this happened to me and this is how it's related, and then everyone will respond with, oh, it's so good for you to share your personal story, or, I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, but I hope everything's working out. Those are nice pleasantries, but those are not substantive posts. 1 or 2 sentences is seldomly a substantive post. Typically, it's going to be 1 or more paragraph where you have an idea that's coherently and logically supported. The exact number and frequency doesn't really matter. However, I am typically more lenient when it comes to grading posts that are made earlier in the week, and I am much more strict when it comes to posts being made later in the week. Right? So if you are posting, your thoughts on the particular prompt for that week, the Monday when that opens up, I will grade that post more flexibly, or that same post will be graded higher than if you made that same post on Friday, an hour before it's due. Now, the rubric that I use to grade the posts is here. So you get half point, or quarter point, half point, 3/4 of a point, or a full point for each of these different pieces within your posts. So relevant, you get a full point for that post if it's consistently relevant. You get a 1/4 of a point if it's not too relevant at all. And then at the end of that week, the number of points that you have gotten adds up, and that is what your total for that particular discussion will be. I grade each post individually using this rubric. Let's see. So there are no late discussion posts allowed. The nature of the discussion is that it is happening in real time. People are logging in and writing posts and logging in and responding to posts during that week. And it does no one any good for you to come in on the last week of class and write a bunch of discussion posts that no one will read. So the purpose of this is to have this sort of interaction, not just simply to jump through a hoop to get points. So any posts that are made after the deadline are going to be graded as a 0, even in the case of an emergency or an illness, including the apocalypse. All right, so there is no way to get points for late discussion posts. Written papers, there'll be 2 of them during the quarters, 3 of them. There'll be 2 short papers and 1 final paper. There'll be typically 4 to 5 page maximum, designed to tackle a specific question. Typically, the first 2 papers, you will read an article relevant, or research article that is relevant to the material for that week, and then you will write a response to it, paying very close attention to the guidelines, and I will post videos about those guidelines. The late paper policy, so the papers, you lose 5% for every 24 hours that it's late, not including weekends. And if you have documentation of an emergency situation, your house was robbed and all of your computers and materials were gone, and you couldn't turn in your paper for a couple days, and you have a police report that you can take a picture of and email me that's got your name and the dates and all of that thing, that's what I count as an emergency situation. um, all assignments will be typed and uploaded to Moodle. They'll be screened for plagiarism. Um, the final paper will be similar to the first two, except for the final, you will choose your own topic, and you will look up your own articles, and you will write your paper based on those articles that you find. And again, there will be explanation videos for this later on. You can think of this as pregame for 4100, the experimental psychology class. The looking up and summarizing and interpreting and integrating articles is much of what we do in that class. My policy for letters of recommendation. Every semester I get lots of requests for letters of recommendation. Oftentimes these are my top students, like people who have done very, very well in my classes, and I know their names and I know their faces and I know who they are. I also receive requests from students that I barely know, students who have had me for 2 weeks of one semester, or those who have not done very well or who have not worked with me on research projects. Typically the top students, they're going to email me 2 or 3 months in advance. Hey, I'm going to graduate school. I would like to go to graduate school. Will you write me a letter of recommendation? The students I barely know oftentimes are deciding to apply for graduate school the week before the application is due. And I will typically only agree to write letters for the top students. And I define this as those who have earned an A in at least 2 of my classes and or have worked with me on research projects. I also will only write a letter for those who make a request directly to me at least 1 month before the application deadline. So if neither of these things apply to you, if you have not earned an A in 2 of my classes or you have not done research with me, and or the deadline is not more than a month away, please do not approach me for a letter of recommendation. I have the whole policy outlined here, so just be aware of that. This class for academic misconduct, there's really no issue with cheating. There is an issue with plagiarism. Everything gets run through turnitin.com. Students often ask what percentage is acceptable for turnitin.com, and there's no real answer to that. I look directly at the plagiarism report, and I can usually spot the difference between just bad paraphrasing. So, similar words in a similar order, but it's clear that you made the attempt to put it into your own words and you've cited it properly, versus straight up and down plagiarism, entire paragraphs lifted from various sources, or entire paragraphs coming from the target article or another student's paper. So use your best judgment. Again, with the papers, I'm more interested in your interpretation, less about the facts of the paper. Right? It's part of it is about getting the facts right, but part of it is also being able to digest the information and tell me what your understanding is. So the consequences of academic dishonesty are here. The last page is the course calendar. You are going to want to print this out and post it on the wall next to your desk because this is the course calendar that we will stick to. We have 10 units approximately in the class. We will do 2 units a week. The unit will open on a Monday and it will close on a Friday. The Wednesday unit will open on a Wednesday and it will close on a Sunday. Okay, so we're going to have 2 units a week and they're going to be staggered. All of the post deadlines are here. They're all going to be midnight on Moodle. Now, midnight usually means 11:59, but for sometimes Moodle doesn't let me deal with anything other than multiples of 5. So sometimes midnight means 11:55. But typically you're going to want to be posting these things well in advance of those deadlines. You will notice here at the end that technically the summer term ends on July 2nd, but I have posts and the final paper due after that. I do this because there's just not enough time for me to have all of these things due during the May 31st to July 2nd window that we have. However, if you you can certainly complete everything within that time frame. So you could finish quiz 10 and post number 10 before July 2nd. You could turn in your final paper before July 2nd if you would like to do that. However, to be accommodating, the final paper is due on July 9th. And I also will do a quiz amnesty week at the end of the term, and this will run from July 4th through July 8th. And this will mean that every single quiz will reopen for those few days for you to go back and make up any quizzes you may have not done as well as you would have liked on. So just be aware of that, and I'll make some announcement about that as we get closer. So this has been the syllabus introduction video. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to a good summer and good discussions with you all.